Welcome to the Tao of Lloyd, friends, fellow travelers, sacred troublemakers. I'm Lloyd Dobler. Yep, that Gen X icon. He now has a podcast, and it's spinning these Dharma-like mixtapes into this microwave of manifest destiny we call the United States of America. You say it can't happen? It's happening. It's happening. It's hot as fuck here in Lowell, Massachusetts as I record this. I hope you're all staying cool. If you need the whole backstory about the Lloyd Dobler thing, check out the first two episodes, because today we have to dive deep into the matrix of perpetual war, and you're going to need some context for this red pill. But first, this week's episode is sponsored by the Department of Defense. I know. The Doge motherfuckers never got into that Department of Defense. They're just spending wildly all over the place, including advertisements on this show, the Tao of Lloyd. And I know I also famously said that I never wanted to sell anything or buy anything or process anything as a career, and I still don't want to sell anything bought or processed, or buy anything sold or processed, or process anything sold, bought, or processed, or repair anything sold, bought, or... But the truth is, I have bills just like you. And if you're going to hold me accountable to everything I said as a teenager when I was in love, then I've got some questions about some life plans and big promises you made after you filled that shot glass with amaretto and topped it off with 151 proof run down in the parking lot in high school, lit the thing on fire, dropped it in a beer, and chugged it before making some pretty bold promises. Remember, I was your designated driver back in high school, so I know more than you remember. Can we both just agree that we've gotten a little bit older and we've had to make a few compromises along the way? And for me, one of those compromises is this ad from the Department of Defense. That's how podcasts work, right? That's how these things get made. Am I right? Or am I right? Anyway, it's 60 seconds. Listen to the ad. The Department of Defense is hiring. Do you have what it takes to serve under the divine command of the Pentagon pastor of preemptive strikes, Pete Hegseth? With his Fox TV charm, his Christian nationalism, and the ink to prove it, Petey brings medieval solutions to modern problems. Negotiate? That's some woke-ass radical socialist bullshit. America is not negotiating anymore. We're bringing back the Crusades. And hell, why do we even call it the Department of Defense when all we run out here is offense? We out here dropping bombs like Mahomes hitting Kelsey on Sunday. We're looking for patriots to spread Christian autocracy, American hypocrisy, and corporate kleptocracy. Apply today. No experience necessary. Department of Defense, putting the Christ back in cluster bomb. Okay, it's new in this podcast, and obviously, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to convince you that the Department of Defense actually wrote that ad. I had fun writing it. I had even more fun putting the video together for it. I went a little crazy with the editing. You can check that out on the Tao of Lloyd socials, and let me know what you think. But before you ask, yes, my parents were career military people, which explains a lot about why I can't work for that corporation, why I ended up here talking about empire, why I know exactly what I'm looking at when I see the Pentagon pastor of preemptive strikes loading up his crusader tattoos for another final, perhaps, holy war. So let's begin.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise.
Really? Don, have you actually heard those names for years? Because you sound like that rich kid who stumbled into geography class hungover and the teacher made you read from the Iran chapter out loud and you lost your speak and spell.
Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Dropping bombs while calling for peace is like lighting a match in a gas station bathroom and then spraying Febreze, calling it meditation.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the desert of the real. We have only bits and pieces of information.
Thank you, Morpheus. But what we know for certain is that right now, our brain is on Empire like that egg in the frying pan in that 1970s commercial. Last week, Operation Rising Lion looked like an Israeli solo act, Netanyahu's greatest hits album of precision strikes and nuclear scientists hunting. But Saturday night, Trump dropped, this is what he called it, Operation Midnight Hammer. He fired up the B-2 bombers and turned this into a full-blown imperial love song duet. Let's get the two of those fuckers on the K-Tel Love Songs album. Can you imagine being a copywriter for the Defense Department? I mean, Midnight Hammer? That's what they're calling this thing. You see, the Matrix doesn't just control what you see. It controls what you think you're choosing. So the blue pill narrative, what they want you to believe when something like this. Trump tried diplomacy. He gave Iran 60 days to negotiate. Israel had no choice but to strike preemptively. America's not involved. We're just helping defend our ally. But here is your red pill reality check, friends. This war was planned months ago. Trump's, quote, negotiations, the negotiator-in-chief, were the diplomatic equivalent of a professional wrestling storyline. It's pure theater to make the predetermined outcome look spontaneous. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spent a week insisting that America took no part in Israel's strikes. Then Saturday night, boom, Trump dropped the orders to bunker busters, dropping on the one facility that Israel couldn't reach. So now, as I record this, there are 40,000 American troops scattered across the region like human bait, waiting to see if Iran is going to take the revenge buffet or the all-you-can-bomb special. But here's what really gets me, because I'm not just here to rant, and we're going to get into this a little bit deeper later. How do you hold a spiritual center when empire is literally eating itself alive on live television? How do you breathe in compassion when your tax dollars are funding the incineration of other people's children? How do you practice the sacred refusal we talked about in episode 1 when the machine keeps upgrading its capacity for violence? We're going to wrestle with that later on in the show, but first, I just want to give you a quick rundown of how we got here. Let's call this Operation Self-Fulfilling Prophecy. Starting in 1953, the CIA, with the help of the British intelligence agency MI6, launches Operation Ajax, there's another name again, and successfully overthrows Iran's democratically elected prime minister for the crime of nationalizing Iranian oil, taking profits away from the oil giant British Petroleum. The U.S. framed this toppling as a Cold War era necessity to prevent Soviet influence, though we all know this was about protecting oil profits. This is where it starts, friends, not with Islamic revolution, but with American intervention. And that intervention yields resentment that brews for decades. And this is the same view that we need to think of with Operation MC Hammer. I'm changing the fucking name. Fuck Operation Hammer. I'm calling it Operation MC Hammer. Can't touch this. So Operation MC Hammer, and that resentment builds directly, fueling resentment that leads to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The Iranian people kick out a brutal dictator. In response, they take 52 American hostages at the American embassy for 444 days. Bad move? Absolutely. But when you look at the tit for tat of who's doing the right and who's doing the wrong here, this is hardly the kind of blowback that we probably deserved for 26 years of supporting a regime that disappeared and tortured and murdered Iranian citizens. In 1979, I was like 9 or 10. I knew nothing about politics, but I do remember, and this is a very clear core memory, I'm not proud of it, being on a school bus and singing, leading a group song that went bomb, 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 Iran, to the tune of the Beach Boys song, Barbaran. Is that the Beach Boys? I don't know. It was on the school bus. Also on the school bus was another 9-year-old kid, an Iranian American kid. She cried when we sang this song every day. And we did this for weeks. And we had fun. How does a 9-year-old learn to be so cruel? Who taught us that song? I mean, it was just in the air in suburban America for us to pick up. And what are the 9-year-old kids today thinking? What are they picking up? How bad is Islamophobia going to get now that we've launched a war with Iran and we've got Trump in office? Fast forward to 1987, during the Iran-Iraq War, the U.S. Navy began escorting Kuwaiti oil tankers flying the American flag. This is an indirect favor to Iraq. The Navy clashed with Iranian forces, attacked boats and oil rigs, and then in 1988, they, quote, accidentally shot down an Iranian civilian airliner, killing 290 people. Oopsies. Our bad. Here's a medal of commendation for the ship captain. The United States Navy claimed the airliner was mistaken for an attacking F-14 Tomcat. However, the plane was on a well-known commercial route in Iranian airspace, ascending, not descending, and in the fog of war, to quote the unfortunate bumper sticker from your beat-up Chevy Nova back in 1988, quote, shit happens. Maybe that is what Pete Hegseth's Department of Defense will call World War III. Operation Shit Happens. Then fast forward to 2015, 2018 time period, and we come up with the Iran nuclear deal. It wasn't just working, it was really working. Iran had inspectors up in its uranium business like Mr. Roper peeping through a cracked door at Jack Tripper's love life, uninvited, persistent, always assuming the worst. And guess what? The Iranians were complying. No bombs, no sneak attacks, just paperwork, oversight, awkward diplomacy, exactly the kind of boring, grown-up stuff that prevents wars. But then Donald Trump came along in 2018, and he pulled the U.S. out of the deal, out of the Iran deal, like a toddler flipping a Monopoly board. Why? Probably because it had Obama's name on it. This was the Obama-Iranian nuclear deal. I've been reading Rebecca Solnit's new Substack, and she has some really interesting things to say about this. But as she puts it, this was scrapping Obama's legacy, was basically Trump's love language. So yeah, we had a functioning brake system that would have avoided this Operation MC Hammer. But Trump cut the lines to make sure the car would fly off the cliff. And here we are, bringing us to, I guess, what can only be called a nuclear catch-22. Here is the sick logic. As lawyer Max Kennerly notes, quote, when Trump withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal in May 2018, he made it, de facto, the policy of the United States that every country should have an active nuclear weapons program. Today, meaning the day Operation MC Hammer happened, He made it clear that they need to develop functional nuclear weapons as soon as possible. Nothing else can prevent a U.S. attack. So in this rhetorical framing, it follows that we created the very threat that we're now bombing them for, the nuclear catch-22. Trump gave Iran 60 days to surrender their nuclear program. When he didn't, he calls it failed diplomacy and starts dropping the most powerful non-nuclear bombs in our arsenal on their mountain hideouts. But here's the thing that Rebecca Solnit nails in her Substack, and I'm going to link to this and the other sources that I used to create this episode in the full transcript for this show on the Tao of Lloyd website. Solnit says, quote, "Unlike previous wars, no case for today's attack has been made. No propaganda buildup, no congressional approval, no explanation of what our goals are. You see the pattern? Every American defensive action creates the Iranian threat that justifies the next American action. It's a geopolitical Ponzi scheme. And throw a constitutional crisis into the mix. Only Congress can declare war. As Congressman Sean Casten puts it, quote, no president has the authority to bomb another country that does not pose an imminent threat to the U.S. without the approval of Congress. This is an unambiguous, impeachable offense." True, but let's pause and just acknowledge also true. This is the thing about empire. It's not just Republicans. It's not just Democrats. Obama and Biden have also engaged in bombing other countries without congressional approval. Also unambiguous, impeachable defenses. Different drivers, same destination, total spectrum dominance. The machine doesn't care who's driving, it just needs to keep moving. And right now, we handed the keys to the machine to a guy who thinks that foreign policy is a wrestling promo and war crimes are strong leadership. Which leads us to this week's open letter. And I'm writing an open letter to Donald Trump. Take it in. Give it a little share. Dear Donald, it's me, Lloyd. Yeah, the guy from the movie you probably tried to buy the rights to in the 90s but got outbid by a hedge fund vampire with better hair plugs. I need to tell you something, and I'm going to use small words so your attention span doesn't wander off to Truth Social or to whatever gold-plated toilet you're tweeting from today. You just started World War III, bruh. Not a limited engagement, not a surgical strike. You just kicked off a regional firestorm that's going to make Iraq look like a 4th of July barbecue gone slightly wrong. And let's just be honest about why. Because your poll numbers are in a free fall. You whined online that even Fox News is being mean to you. You're so desperate for relevance, you'd like the world on fire just to watch your name flicker in the glow. One week, nobody comes to your birthday party, even with all those tanks. The next week, you're dropping bunker busters on Iran. You've gone rogue. Only Congress can declare war, but you skipped all that. No hearings, no votes, not even a pretext. You bombed a sovereign nation that posed no imminent threat to the U.S. As Congressman Sean Casten puts it, this is an unambiguous, impeachable offense. You're flying blind, Donald. Bombing first, thinking never. You talk tough, but we see you. The guy who hides behind the bone spurs, the guy who dodged the draft, the guy who called American soldiers losers and suckers. You don't think history will remember that? Wait until the first flag-draped coffin comes home from this war you just started, asshole. Wait until that mother in Ohio or that widow in El Paso hears what you said, that dying for your country makes you a sucker. You'll have to explain that to a folded flag and a 6-year-old who doesn't understand why daddy's never coming home. You didn't just betray the Constitution. Everyone knows you don't give a shit about that. You betrayed the very people you sent into harm's way. And for what? So Raytheon can pop champagne on the earnings call next quarter? So Netanyahu can cling to power? So you can pretend your manhood isn't made of spray tan and NDAs? Here's the truth you will never face. Real strength would have been restraint. Real courage would have been owning our past, lifting the sanctions, and meeting humanity with humanity. But that would have required you to be something you've never been, a man. Instead, you're a scared little boy with billion-dollar toys, blowing holes in the world to feel something. You didn't make America great again, you made empire terminal. You lit the match and called it peace. And when the blowback comes, because it will come, when the body bags start arriving and the headlines start hedging, when cable news says tragic but necessary, and the generals mumble about collateral damage, don't be fooled. They'll try to wrap this in a strategy, in a patriotism, in solemn-faced ceremony. But none of them will say what really happened, that a fragile narcissist started a war to feed his ego, and the system, media, military, and political alike played along like it always does, pretending this was destiny instead of a choice. They'll salute the casket, they'll fold the flag, and then they'll go back to fundraising and weapons contracts like nothing happened. But we won't forget, and neither will the ghosts. Sleep tight, Lloyd. Well, I mean, I guess it felt good to rant a little and get that off my chest, and I hope you share that open letter. They're organized as separate little blog posts on the website. But let me share something that's been keeping me a little bit sane through all this. Chapter 1 of the Tao Te Ching by Stephen Mitchell, or in Stephen Mitchell's translation, Lao Tzu, says that the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gateway to all understanding. I try to read a chapter every morning when I wake up. I am not an expert. I am not a guru. I'm just trying to figure it out. It helps for me to meditate on that. And I was meditating on that, and I guess counterintuitively also posting on social media about Iran. And then someone responded to me, yeah, you're worried about Iran, but my morning focus has been whether to go get some really good, fun donuts. I'm most likely not going. At first, I thought this was so dismissive that I just wanted to strangle him. And you know what? I wanted to rage type back about how people are dying while you're contemplating glazed donuts versus sprinkles. But then I stopped because maybe that person was practicing something that I'm still learning. Here's the spiritual wrestling I can't escape. The Tao teaches presence, being fully here, fully now, honoring what's actually in front of you. And what's in front of that person is a donut decision. What's in front of me is B-2 bombers dropping bunker busters on Iranian nuclear facilities. But that's my choice. Both are real. Both are happening now. Both arise from the same source. But here's where it gets complicated. Empire thrives on our fragmented attention. It needs you and me and everyone we know doomscrolling the drone strikes between videos of raccoons playing xylophones. It needs us choosing sprinkles or glazed donuts while it chooses targets. The war on terror that can be branded isn't security, it's marketing. The spreading democracy that can be tweeted isn't freedom, it's PR and fatigues. And the Iranian threat that can be propagandized isn't the eternal reality. These are just names, labels, designed to make the unthinkable feel inevitable. Free from the desire for security through violence, we realize the mystery. We are all manifestations of the same source. Iranian mothers, American mothers, the person choosing the donuts, and the person choosing to make a podcast about the war wrapped in some questionable analogy about the Matrix. We arise from the same darkness and we return to the same light. So maybe the path forward isn't choosing between donuts and democracy, between presence and politics. Maybe it's holding both.
I know Kung Fu.
Me too, Neo. Except my Kung Fu looks more like holding a protest sign in the rain and skipping brunch to divest from Lockheed Martin. You know Kung Fu too, listener. Now it's time to use it. It's time to get loud, time to get organized, time to flood the streets like it's 2003. I mean, I know it didn't work that time. But you have to find the anti-war protests in your city. If there aren't any, start one. Bring everyone. This isn't about left versus right. This is about war versus peace. Invite your MAGA uncle who's tired of foreign wars. Invite your liberal friend who thinks that bombs are bad regardless of who drops them. Invite your libertarian coworker who, fuck that. Fuck the libertarians. I can't even say it. I mean, I wrote it. No, invite your libertarian friends. Go ahead. Now get ready for pushback. Trump has already militarized ICE raids in American cities. You think he won't try the same tactics against anti-war protesters? Bring water, bring medics, bring legal observers, bring each other. Hit them where it hurts. Boycott war profiteers. Divest your retirement funds from defense contractors. Demand your city council or your state legislator, your university, your union pension fund, demand they stop investing in companies that profit from human misery. This is going to be hard. This is not a war, a surgical strike that's going to be over in a weekend, getting us all down to a Trump golf course. Empire doesn't give up easy. The machine has antibodies, got propaganda, police, patriots who think dissent equals treason. But when enough people say not in my name, the machine breaks down. When enough people say bring our troops home, the politicians start sweating. When enough people say stop bombing people in my name, the whole theater of justification starts to crumble. All right, now I know I've left this Matrix metaphor way off to the side, but the spoon is bending, people. This time it's not a trick. We're the glitch in their system. We bend the fucking spoon. We break the cycle. Take the red pill, friends. See the Matrix for what it is. Then help us tear it down. One protest, one boycott, one act of resistance at a time. From the edge of empire, in the center of self, where the real revolution lives, this is the Tao of Lloyd.